Hello students, welcome to our first module of class 8 History, our past 3, chapter 6 Weavers, Iron Smelters and Factory Owners. In this module, we will discuss about the Indian textile and the world market as well as the Indian textile in the European market. So let us begin. This chapter basically tells the story of the crafts and industries of India during the British rule by focusing on two industries, namely textiles and iron and steel. Both these industries were crucial for the industrial revolution in the modern world. Mechanized production of cotton textiles made Britain the foremost industrial nation in the 19th century. And when its iron and steel industry started growing from the 1850s, Britain came to be known as the workshop of the world. With the growth of industrial production, British industrialists began to see India as a vast market for their industrial product, and over time manufactured goods from Britain began flooding India. How did this affect Indian crafts and industries? This is the question that we will explore in this module. Now let us start with Indian textiles and the world market. Around 1750, before the British conquered Bengal, India was by far the world's largest producer of cotton textiles. Indian textiles had long been renowned both for their fine quality and exquisite craftsmanship. They were extensively traded in Southeast Asia, that is Java, Sumatra and Penang, and West and Central Asia. From the 16th century, European trading companies began buying Indian textiles for sale in Europe. Memories of this flourishing trade and the craftsmanship of Indian weavers is preserved in many words still current in English and other languages. It is interesting to trace the origin of such words and see what they tell us. So definitely words tell us histories. European traders first encountered fine cotton cloth from India carried by Arab merchants in Mosul in present-day Iraq. So they began referring to all finely woven textiles as muslin, a word that acquired wide currency. When the Portuguese first came to India in search of spices, they landed in Calicut on the Kerala coast in southwest India. The cotton textiles which they took back to Europe along with the spices came to be called calico, derived from Calicut, and subsequently calico became the general name for all cotton textiles. There are many other words which point to the popularity of Indian textiles in Western markets. Let us see some of them. Amongst the pieces ordered in bulk were printed cotton clothes called chin, kosas or khasa and bandhana. Do you know where the English term chins comes from? It is derived from the Hindi word chin, a cloth with small and colorful flowery design. From the 1680s, there started a craze for printed Indian cotton textiles in England and Europe, mainly for their exquisite floral designs, fine texture and relative cheapness. Rich people of England, including the Queen herself, wore clothes of Indian fabric. Similarly, the word bandhana now refers to any brightly colored and printed scarf for the neck or head. Originally, the term derived from the word bandhana. In Hindi, that means tying, and referred to a variety of brightly colored cloth produced through a method of tying and dyeing. There were other clothes that were known by their place of origin, for example, Kasim Bazar, Patna, Calcutta, Odisha, Jalalpur, etc. The widespread use of such words shows how popular Indian textiles had become in different parts of the world. Now let us talk about Indian textiles in European markets. By the early 18th century, worried by the popularity of Indian textiles, wool and silk makers in England began protesting against the import of Indian cotton textiles. In 1720, the British government enacted a legislation banning the use of printed cotton textiles, chins, in England. Interestingly, this act was known as the Calico Act. At this time, textile industries had just begun to develop in England. Unable to compete with Indian textiles, English producers wanted a secure market within the country by preventing the entry of Indian textiles. The first to grow under government protection was the calico printing industry. Indian designs were now imitated and printed in England on white muslin or plain unbleached Indian cloth. Competition with Indian textiles also led to a surge of technological innovation in England. In 1764, the spinning jenny was invented by John Kay, which increased the productivity of the traditional spindles. Spinning jenny is a machine by which a single worker could operate several spindles onto which thread was spun. When the wheel was turned, all the spindles rotated. Another invention, that is the invention of the steam engine by Richard Arkwright in 1786, revolutionized cotton textile weaving. Cloth could now be woven in immense quantities and cheaply too. However, Indian textiles continued to dominate world trade till the end of the 18th century. European trading companies, that is the Dutch, the French and the English, made enormous profits out of this flourishing trade. Now let us talk about the weaver communities of India. Weavers often belong to communities that specialized in weaving. Their skills were passed on from one generation to the next. The Tanti weavers of Bengal, the Julahas or Momins of North India, Saleh, Kaikolar and Devangs of South India are some of the communities famous for weaving. The first stage of production was spinning, a work done mostly by women. The charkha and the takli were household spinning instruments. The thread was spun on the charkha and rolled on the takli. When the spinning was over, the thread was woven into cloth by the weaver. In most communities, weaving was a task done by men. For colored textiles, the thread was dyed by the dyer, known as rangrij. For printed cloth, the weavers needed the help of specialist block printers known as chipigars. Handloom weaving and the occupation associated with it provided livelihood to millions of Indians. Let us summarize what we have learned. The industrialization of Britain had a close connection with the conquest and colonization of India. Indian textiles had a large market in Europe. Invention of steam engine and spinning jenny revolutionized cotton textile weaving. Let us see what you have grasped today. Here are some questions for you. Your question number 1 is, chins, kosas, khasa, bandhna are examples of dash. And the options are A. Silk cloth, B. Jute cloth, C. Colored cotton cloth, or D. Printed cotton cloth. And the correct answer is D. Printed cotton cloth. Your next question is, chipigars were dash. And the options are A. Weavers, B. Cotton growers, C. Dyers, or D. Block printers. And the correct answer is D. Block printers. Your third question is, spinning jenny was invented in the year, and the options are A. 1764, B. 1767, C. 1789, or D. 1785. And the correct answer is A. 1764. Your next question is, dash referred to the dyer who dyed the cloth, and the options are A. Chipigars, B. Devangs, C. Rangraj, or D. Momins. And the correct answer is C. Rangraj. It's practice time now, and here is some homework for you. Your question number 1 is, what kinds of cloth had a large market in Europe? Your question number 2 is, mention 2 industries which were crucial for the Industrial Revolution in England. Your question number 3 is, name some of the communities in different parts of India famous for weaving. And your question number 4 is, why did the wool and silk producers in England protest against the import of Indian textiles in the early 18th century? In our next module, we will discuss about the decline of Indian textiles as well as about the iron and steel industry. Till then, take care of yourself, stay home, stay safe. Thank you.